Hey, so in this video I want to talk about something that a lot of you won't understand. 1111, you'll see from the title. This is going to be my 1111 story. I see a lot of people making videos telling you what it means and what to do, and it means someone's contacting you, it means there's an angel contacting you, it's numerological, it's evil, and all these people. Okay, let them believe what they want to believe and ramble on about what they want to ramble on about. But this is my story about how when 1111 showed up, I wanted to know what it meant. So I followed it with everything I have. Everything. I gave up my home, my business, sold my car, and I followed 1111 halfway across the world to East Africa. And that's where I'm sitting now, in East Africa. And in my short time I've been here, in the last 18 months since following 1111, this is my story about how I wound up with a children's home, a children's fund which supports over 200 children with full-time education, and housing for some of them, all of them with medical care, clothing. And these are children who would have otherwise been in child labour or were in child labour. Others were just living well below the poverty line, less than $1 a day. I gave myself to whatever that was behind it, that divinity behind 1111. Call them angels, call it God, call it the universe, call it what you will. When you give yourself to it, it does respond and it helps you. And as I say, this is what happened to me after I followed 1111 to East Africa. And I wound up with a children's home, a children's fund, and an animal rescue shelter with 31 residents. So, this is my 1111 story. So I recorded the 1111 video that you're watching the other day, but when I put it together, I decided that there was a bit missing, so that's what this part is. And the part that I felt was missing is what is 1111, because I'm sure some people who click on this might not have ever even heard of it because it's an obscure thing. And for those of you who have heard of it, a lot of you are probably asking that question, what is 1111? Which is the same question I asked for a long time, which is ultimately why I followed it in the end. So what is 1111? Well, it's this strange phenomena. Call it metaphysical, call it spiritual. What happens is you can't help but look. Okay, so you're going about your day, and it starts, with me it started, whenever you look at the clock, it's 11:11. And then it progressed from there, and it started that I would get text messages and emails at 11:11, but only when they were in relation to a subject or a direction I was heading. And if you get really in tune with the present moment, these number synchronicities come in other forms as well. And I see them as guidance, and this is what most people see them as. Some people call it a spiritual awakening, which is part of what it was for me, for sure. It was part of my spiritual awakening, because I'm very different since it began to happen to me, and I followed it to where I am. So, what actually is it? So some people say it's a sign from God. Some people say it's a sign from an angel. Some people call it contact, as in beings that they don't define as an angel, maybe as a spirit, or from another, people say dimension, another dimension perhaps. But if you get into the workings of the universe, and you need to explain this with logic and intellect, which is where the confrontation of people like myself who say we get these signs, synchronicities, meaningful coincidences, and people can't buy it, they can't accept it because they need logic behind it. They need to see something with their five senses, which is where the flaw is, because there's a whole lot of stuff exists outside the human five sense range. We know this with science. But if you look at the basis of the universe and what it's made up of, our part of the universe, our reality where we live, is made up of vibrations, sound, and within there you've got geometry, shapes, and behind there you have numbers, mathematics, numerology. You're made of this stuff as well, yeah? You're a vibration. You are mathematics. You are geometry. If you zoom in far enough, or if you go deep enough into your means of analysing your being, of who you are. So what you could say is that it's just your reality speaking to you. You can label it as angels. I often call it angels, and other people, like I say, call it encounters and stuff like this. But if you really need some science behind it because it sounds too out there, then your reality is made up of mathematics, numbers, and geometry, yeah? So, and we know that reality speaks. We know it does, yeah? We know it has an innate intelligence that we don't understand yet. We don't fully understand it. So, perhaps it's just reality speaking to people from another depth, another level, yeah? So that's what 1111 is. It's when this number just won't leave you alone in many, many different ways, shapes and forms, be it text messages, emails, looking at the clock, receipts, car number plates, you name it, it'll find a way. And it's not just 1111, it progresses to other numbers too, which is where people say it's angel numbers, your reality, trying to guide you using numerology, using part of the fabric of what reality is. So that's 1111. So what will follow now in the video is my story of how I followed 1111 and the amazing coincidences and signs that I received, which were spiritual or metaphysical in nature. And they led me to where I am today, which is supporting over 200 children, supporting 31 dogs at a rescue shelter, and a kitten, which I got yesterday, and with a children's home where I live and care for HIV children. So this is what happens if you dare to follow 1111. So back in 2011, like a lot of you out there, I started to see 1111. It was every time I looked at the clock, it was 1111. I'd wake up, it was 1111. I'd go to the shop and buy something, it added up to 1111. I was looking for a flat in 2011, somewhere to rent, back in the UK, and I saw one flat on the internet, and I said, this is the one. I just had a feeling, and I headed off, and I rented it that day. I didn't look at any others, and I didn't see this, but about 4 days after I moved in, my father, who was, God bless my family for putting up with me while it was happening back then, but I told them all about 1111, and I'm sure they thought I was going mad as I did. He sat down, he said, did you know about that? And I said, no, about what? And 1111 was carved in the roof beam to this flat that I'd rented. So this symbol, this number, followed me around in the most peculiar and unusual of ways. I began looking into this and taking this seriously. Now at first, like some of you listening to this will think, I thought I might be going a little bit mad. So I kept it to myself, but after some time I decided to do my research. And I am far from alone with this. First thing I found was a Facebook page with over 500,000 people who see 1111. So then I found some books written by people who had chosen to embrace this number's presence in their life and start following it. And this is what I began to do. And a lot of people say it's numerology. There's people say it's angel numbers, or it's contact from otherworldly beings from different parts of the universe. Call it aliens, other dimensional beings. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. For me, I do call it numerology, and I do say it's angels. But for those of you out there with a science mind who say angels, really? Well, you just need to learn that language shifts from romantic to scientific. So in olden times, an angel is a messenger of light. We all know this. But in modern times, you have a thing called a photon. A photon is a particle which contains information, and that particle can only travel on an angle of light. They are both extremely similar, if not meaning the same thing. So to me, 1111 and the other number synchronicities that I've had and followed do mean angels. And I followed them. I followed it. And back in 2011, after following 1111 a lot, it became the date, which a lot of you watching this might have acknowledged, 11th of November 2011. And I decided to fast on that day. I did a water fast for 11 days, naturally. And in the middle of that water fast, I was watching wildlife documentaries on YouTube, kind of distracting myself from fantasizing about food, as can sometimes happen if you don't get control when you're fasting. Yeah? And at the side of the YouTube video I was watching, a video came up about children in East Africa, and I clicked it, and it broke my heart immediately. I still remember the two children it was talking about. They were called Sam and Esther, and they had polio, and they were found in the bush in Uganda. And you've never seen two more vulnerable children in all your life. There was a perfect circle around where they were laid because they didn't have the energy to do anything other than spin round in a circle. And it crippled me. It crippled me. And I got angry, I got sad, and I sat back. I said, well, how can it be like this? Someone should do something about this, is what I said to myself, to the universe. I don't know who I said it to. But within a matter of seconds, a voice came in my head and said, you're someone. So I sat back and I began to wonder about that. And at the time, I had my own business. I wasn't rich, believe me. I had my own rented flat, and I had a little car, sports car, one that I'd always wanted, but a used sports car, not like some, super fancy, amazing car or anything. I wasn't rich. I was comfortable. I was rich compared to the people I have seen and worked with here, believe me, but by UK standards I wasn't. So I sat back and I went through the notions. What can I do? Can I donate money to these people I saw working on the video? Can I help somehow? Can I promote them? Can I ask them if they need help? Can I volunteer? And through my tears, I began Googling for the name of their organisation, which was Village to Village. Village, number 2, Village. In my ignorance, and given I was fasting, I typed in Village T-O, Village. And sure enough, a charity did come up, but it was in Tanzania. That's my rescue dogs you can hear. That charity was in Tanzania, not Uganda. But I was ignorant. I've never been to East Africa. I didn't know anything about this. So I applied there and then, and I made my application on the internet to come and volunteer. And I went to bed that night thinking, well, see what comes of it. Yeah, who knows? Maybe I can go over there for a few weeks and help out. Hello. Some of my rescue dogs have just come down to see me. So I heard nothing from them for a few days, and then on the 11th day of my water fast at 11:11 a.m, and I still have the email. I'll maybe put a print screen in this video. I received the email asking me to come to Tanzania and help them with their projects. And I knew. I'd already said to myself that I'm going to follow 11:11 with everything I've got. If this is destiny, if this is God, if this is an angel, surely they know better than I do, yeah? So I made the decision that I would follow it with everything I have. And this is where a lot of people miss out with 11:11, because they see it but they don't listen to it, yeah? So that's what I did. I got rid of my home. I got rid of my business, and I got rid of my car. I changed my life. I stopped eating meat. I stopped drinking alcohol. I stopped smoking. And I said, okay, I'm going to go. I'm not going to go and volunteer for a brief time. I'm going to move there. Something's telling me to go. I'm going to move there. So I did eventually. Things were delayed slightly. It was over a year from that receiving that email before I got there, because I had a family bereavement, which put things back for me. But I did get here in the end, and I arrived in the middle of the night in the village I'm in now, called Uchira, and I arrived to what was a failing charity. They were utterly on their knees. They had no money coming in. They couldn't do any work, couldn't help anybody. It was a mess. And I began to immediately question myself, like, oh my God, of course it's like this. Of course it's not working out. You followed a number halfway around the world. Of course it hasn't gone as well as it should, yeah? So within a matter of months, the guy who was in charge, who was a Kenyan, he left, and that left myself with this plot of land where I'm at now, 1 acre of land, a house, and the structure of an NGO. So I was sat in Tanzania, having said to the universe, give me the tools I need to help somehow over there, and I'll go, I'll give my life to helping, but I need your help. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I've never been to East Africa. I'm just literally boarding a plane and going to a country I don't speak the language. And I had, just so you understand, I had like £10,000. That's it. That's all I had when I got here. And within 6 months it was gone on people who needed it immeasurably more than me. People who needed to go to university, or, you know, children in trouble and stuff. Just, you know, place like East Africa, everyone needs something more than I needed to have some money in the bank. Let's put it that way. So I wound up sat, having followed 1111, I said, okay, I'll go. I'll see what you can do for me. I wound up with a building, which is now my children's home, and a big plot of land, which is now where the rescue shelter is, with 31 dogs, and the start of the community for single parents with disabled children. And it's also the base of operations for the Children's Fund, which is supporting over 200 kids. But how this all came about was I wound up sat here on this plot of land with no electricity, with a guy who barely speaks any English called Ali, and we had a beat-up motorbike, and we just started riding around on this motorbike because he knew the community to the most impoverished families. We'd go to the ones living in mud huts, the children who were labouring in quarries. I'd go to the school and find out which children had been orphaned and those that were homeless. And those are the ones I went to first. And I just said, how can I help you? And most of them said the same thing. I need help with the doctor's bills. I need help with school. Some of them started asking for houses and stuff like this. Which I can't just give houses to everyone, but there's a misconception that all white people are really rich here. But we did rent houses for all of the homeless had houses rented as soon as within a matter of a week of meeting them. Bearing in mind houses here are like 2 rooms, that's enough for people because you spend most of your time outside. So that's how it began, and I carried on getting signs and God winks, and it kept unfurling, and I knew, I was like, yeah, okay, I understand, I'm supposed to follow. It's illogical. There's a huge amount of taking a leap of faith, and I know how illogical it is to ride around the Tanzanian bush on a motorbike just asking, to people who I was called to help each day. I would help whoever was in front of me each day. And on the way I would find sick dogs all the time, which is why the animal rescue began, because I take them back to the land and feed them naturally and whatever else. So this is how we wound up with 31, and I can't even remember how many we've rehomed with expats in Tanzania. Another sign that I get is the feathers. I get feathers a lot, and I know a lot of you out there understand this. And I get them so much that the logo for my children's fund, I incorporated the feather. It's a child blowing a feather from their hand. And to give you an example, the first boy I helped who was going into child labour, his name is Faraji, and he has a disabled sister with HIV, and his mother is HIV, and they were living in an abusive drunkard's mud hut, and he has quite a nice house next to it. And he was sending the boy into labour because he was getting paid to do so. He was getting a cut from what the boy would do for doing the labour. Not a nice chap at all, not a nice man in the least. While the guy was telling me about this boy, a white feather blew over his shoulder and spun around in front of us and blew away. And that's just to give you an example, because I get them a lot, and they are what I call signs from above. Some people say they're angel feathers. I just see it as a way of the universe saying, yeah, go this way. A way of God winking at me. Call it an angel, call it what you will, yeah. But I followed these signs. And you can call it crazy, you can say it's nonsense. But it's following them that has 200 children. Now, many of which not with hungry bellies, all of which in school. Many of which no longer homeless. Many of which not in child labour. Because I followed the outrageousness, which is 1111. So for those of you who are seeing 1111 in your life, my advice to you is to follow it. is to get ready for an adventure. And to embrace it and say, yeah, okay, if this is destiny, if this is divine, if this is angelic, if this is fate, godly, whatever, however you want to describe it, then give yourself to it and follow it. Don't question and wonder what it means. Go with it and let it take you on a journey, because that's what it will do. And learn to meditate on things, because once you hear the voice of something you can't see, and then within a matter of minutes or hours that voice was correct, you'll start to realize that either there are indeed entities we can't see guiding our every step or helping us, or there's an entity that'll connect through you and speak to you, or your body has a deeper and innate wisdom than you can ever comprehend. That part of your body that makes your hair grow, makes your heart beat. Yeah, that part of your body that made you grow from being a child. That intelligence, that wisdom. Perhaps that's the thing that's guiding you. I don't know. For me, due to some of the things I've heard, experienced and seen, I'm fairly confident in when I say that it's angels, what I would call an angel, entities of another vibration, entities from another dimension, that perhaps another part of the universe, I don't know. But all I know is they helped me to do all that I've listed in a very short space of time. So yeah, that's my 11/11 story. And the story's not over, it's still going. And I've just decided to start sharing it with the world, with a YouTube channel. So for those of you who see this, who are seeing 11/11, yeah, share your thoughts, experiences and comments underneath, because I'm really keen to connect with other 11/11 people. So anyway, I think I've said all I need to say on my story with 11/11. And I hope at least one person watching that took something from it. So, right. So, bye everyone.